Of the 10 commandments written in the Bible, only 3 are still applicable in today's world, in today's society. Only 3. Bang. At least I can say I had a hard-hitting opening sentence for my first podcast. Good evening, hello, morning, afternoon, wherever you are. My name's Clynton Dunn. I'm 42. I'm a stand-up comedian. I've dabbled in a bit of MMA. I've worked in my mom's nerves. I've had a few other businesses. And finally, after struggling to get back on stage in comedy, a friend of mine, Peter Saranga, said to me, why don't you do this thing called a podcast? You like talking, you've got lots to say, you've got lots of opinions, and a lot of people reflect and relate to my opinion. I'm just not scared to say out loud what most people wouldn't say at all. Like for me, I'm not scared to use the K word. I am not. In fact, the K word to me is, in fact, knowledge. That's my big K word that people seem to use inappropriately nowadays. And obviously, I grew up in a society that's multiracial, multicultural. And funnily enough, where I live in the southern suburbs of Cape Town, it's multi-seasonal too, by the way, four of those a year. But it's not difficult to be relatable to people. It's not difficult for people to relate to me. It is difficult for me to see how people keep on looking at the future, the bright future, looking for the future. And if you shoot for the stars and you miss, that's a long fall down. That's why I think it's just about keeping things simple. Achieve simple. That's all we need to do in life. But the way we're going to do that, and I think I've kind of worked out a formula, the way I've enjoyed living in that, is that I like to go back to the past. People say don't use the past, don't bring up the past, but unfortunately you have to, because the past is who you are. The past is where you've come from. The past is the way your journey in life has been. And maybe looking and hoping that the future is going to be there for you, and it keeps missing and keeps missing. Maybe there's something in your past that shows you why it keeps missing. That's what I believe. So I believe if we worry about the present, this very moment here, how we got to this point in life now, and reflect on that, I think that's a lot more interesting, a lot funnier, a lot funner, and a lot more maybe motivating. Maybe we can help a few people get something out of life. I don't know. At the end of the day, I guess it's time to make my own 10 commandments. And commandment number 1 would definitely have to be achieve simple, don't be a cunt. Simple as that. That's all we want to do in life. It's about going back and reflecting and, how would I say, acknowledging the past. You can't open old wounds if they're already closed. You can talk about them, you can laugh about them, you can joke about them. And I'm going to talk about how I get to where I am now. And to becoming a host of a podcast, how I got to this very point sitting on my couch in my lounge. That's another story. And how we're going to do this is let's worry about the introductions of that over a course of the next few episodes, because nobody meets somebody the very first day. Hi, all the statistics. My name's Clinton. I'm 42, turning 43 in May. Got no children that I know of. I've got 2 awesome nephews. I've got a sister and a brother-in-law. I was about to say a husband. Not that open-minded to that yet, but yeah. So I've got a sister and a husband. They've been together for 20 years. They got married in 2007 and they met in 2004 on an SMS chat line. So yeah, I always tell them that means their finances can't be that bad, because if you could afford SMSs to get to know somebody back in the day, you actually had a little bit of a cell phone contract, if you remember those. So yeah, and fuck ups, I've made so many. I have made so many, and still recently, up until recently, I made a lot. That's another part we can talk about. My outlook on life, the beliefs, my faith, my spiritual beliefs, all of that. That is part of getting to know me. So let's talk about those things. But let's talk about firstly how people tell me to do a podcast. There was a checklist that I've seen online a million times about podcasts. Well soundproofed, well lit, ventilated studio or venue, a good microphone and sound desk to suppress the background noise, eliminate the static hisses and hums, a laptop with a software that you can edit, a decent camera to record if you're going to put it on YouTube, and then trendy decor that must be strategically placed. Yeah, I'm reading my notes. Well, yeah, that's the checklist of a normal person for a podcast. And what my notes say? Fuck you. Really? You don't need all of that. All I need is a decent microphone, and this microphone with the arm thingy and the sound thingy, and that was 500 Rand on Facebook. Messaged the lady, told her I'm having a bit of a bad time budget-wise. Then she got it down to 350 for all the cables. It's got its own woolly warmer over here, and trust me, it doesn't work any better than this microphone in my cell phone. So I don't even know why it's plugged in. It's almost like this is how you feel professional. This thing here, your phone, that's professional enough. So if it's plugged in or not, I'm not actually even sure. A soundproof, well-ventilated area to make fuck that. Really? I have friends, I have family. I also happen to live in a really, really weird, complicated neighborhood. So this is the story. I'm sitting surrounded by a whole hundreds of kilos of soundproofing foam, but we call those couches. The windows are open, and I happen to live in a really, really leafy, nice suburb on the port side. On the starboard side, I happen to live in the last remaining road that links the southern suburbs and the Cape Flats to Victoria Hospital. And it's a corner. So, ambulances and cars fast past all day, all night. Colored people, drag race straight line, and this is a corner. So, accidents plentiful too. So you are going to hear a few cars that come past, and you know how these people are. The louder the car, the better. Me too. There's a petrol station directly opposite my window. If I look out, I can see the petrol station. And that is where I live. This is where I'm willing to do my podcast because it's my life. This is why I think it's more honest. If you're doing it where you are, if you listen to this in your car, you're not going to look for a noise-suppressed, quiet, well-ventilated place to listen to it, are you? No, you're going to have the background noises in the background too. So I think if we start by being honest, I do have a few friends coming around, and you know you'll use the usual farts and burps and screams and whistles, and that's just the females. But other than that, there's nothing special about having a soundproof studio. Really, well ventilated, yeah. Only if the fart jokes go a little bit too far. That's about the only time it's going to be well ventilated. Financially, here's the thing. My sister managed to get the Riverside podcast app for the 14-day free period using her credit card because it's not going to charge her. So if you want to start an app, you actually need a credit card that's going to be able to charge. That's the only thing that you really need. Laptop, fuck the laptop. You need a desktop. Simple. Achieve simple number 2. Use a desktop. And that's only because I need something to use as a coffee table. At the moment, it's a water holder. Fancy side editing software? No. Literally, it's simple. My studio is a lounge that's got a house attached to it, and I've spent many a year playing myself in this very lounge. So it's almost like more homely. This feels right. If I'm going to talk to you about my life and things I've done and say shit I've done in my life, then it needs to be in the place that I've done most of it. Where it comes to fact checking, I think the biggest thing that I think I need to admit to everybody out there is this podcast relies almost 100% on AI, actual intelligence. Nothing is artificial. Google, fuck Google. Opinion, you've done it, it's your opinion, that's fact. That's good enough for me. If I've lived through it, I've been through it, that's fact, that's opinion, that's my fact, that's good enough for me. This is all about being real, being original, being the person that we are. This road that leads from here through to the Cape Flats, it goes to Lavender Hill, Sea Winds, and Parkwood. Place is going to play a lot of. That's going to be a very, very dominant place in my stories that are about to come. Victoria Road, Victoria Hospital had to be built on a patch of land donated by some rich family back in the day. So straight from here up Victoria Road to Victoria Hospital, and opposite me, across the road, Godiva Plumstead, as I like to call it. Well, it's a cemetery. People are dying to go there. People are dying to live there. So yeah, with that said, this is my studio. It's in my lounge. I'm on my 3-seater leather couch that's now starting to look a bit threadbare because I've been sleeping on it since my mom died in October. But that's another thing. And if I have friends around, I'll introduce you to them. But yeah, you'd rather not meet them. So maybe we'll just introduce you by sound, not by video. But let's we're gonna do things backwards. You'll get to know who I am. But let me tell you about how I got to this point in life. This is my story as to this very point in life. As I said earlier, I've got a sister who's I don't know how to say it, and I'm going to get emotional, but that's fine. You'll understand. My sister's been my backbone, but my mom was like the go-to between for my sister and I for the last few years. Before that, my sister and I were best friends. We had the same group of friends, same nights out. So literally, she'd get home from work on a Friday. I'd get home from school, standard 9, matric. Right, where we're going. This is it. Cool. We all know, and we'd go. And then she met this guy on Mixit. I think she didn't admit it, but it's an SMS chat group. And she tells me he's Afrikaans. Boom. Bang, bang, bang. That was it. All I needed to hear. Northern Suburbs Afrikaans. Now reminded me I hate him. Dutchman, so smooth. His version of smooth is barefoot on a gravel road. That's the smooth he is. And to make it even worse, he had a snore, and yes, he worked for the law. So you more Afrikaans you could. I think the more Afrikaans you could get would probably be chrome D4D badges on his daddy's bakkie, but they weren't chrome. They're just normal ones. And I met this guy the one night he came to our house, quite a large kitchen, and my mom brought roties home from work, and I often suffer from heartburn. And yes, if I said it wrong or right, roties, whatever, what it actually is for us white folks is just a pancake wrap with curry inside. But these ones were actually the real ones. They were made by somebody who could make them. So there was a bit of spice to it. And I wasn't too keen on the heartburn on that Friday evening because I still had to go out and impress the ladies. And I didn't go. I was told I'm not going to eat mine. And then I realized this guy was visiting and they offered it to him. And I saw him eating it. And straight away I hated him. And I was making things now that I was going to eat anyway. Asked him if he'd like something to drink. He looked at me and politely said, yes. I said, well, what would you like? He just said, Coke. And that became his nickname, Coke, because it was literally as simple as it needed to be. And he was never, ever, ever rude to me. Anyway, put a few things aside, start hanging out with him. My sister gives him the pink ticket because he lived in the northern suburbs. So he'd stay over here for weekends, and then they'd go to Monday to Thursday, they'd be at their own houses, and then he'd come stay over here because it was just easier for him to be here. And my sister often worked Saturday mornings too, so he'd just hang around for that time. And we all lived in the same house at that stage. And I kind of figured his Afrikaans, I mean, his English was terrible, really general. He asked me what general knowledge was. I kind of told him it was a rank one up above, I don't know, kind of a Sergeant Hamburg or something, and he kind of had to believe me. So English wasn't his first language, and I should have thought of that. I should have known, but I didn't want to. The ignorant, naive me didn't want to know anything about this man. We started hanging out. We'd go out. He'd never, ever make me pay for anything. He'd buy me beer or whatever. He never bought me. It was always a case of he'd buy, if a round of drinks cool, I'd buy a round of drinks that include him, and that, no, thanks, he'd have whatever. And slowly but surely, we actually started breaking that little bond. So now, this is where I need to put a point in. Any person ever out there, anyone at my shows, anyone who's been close to me, any friends of mine, any Facebook friends, any connections I have who've ever laughed at a joke or an insult or something that I've done in this chap's direction. So if you've ever laughed at a joke that I made about Coke, if you ever laughed at a story I told about Coke, you're poes. In Afrikaans words, you're poes. In English words, you are a cunt. Because we should have all known better, especially me. Those jokes, I know they were water off a duck's back for him. But for me now, looking back at it, yeah, it built our relationship stronger. This is how strong it got. This man he does work for the law. I'm not going to say what part of the law he works for, but unfortunately he was put in a situation where most people wouldn't have been able to deal with it at all, and ended up losing his job. And he's still stuck by my sister, and my sister stuck by him, and we all stuck by him. We all stuck by him very, very well. Gets his life sorted out through there, and ends up going to Kenilworth Clinic for a day. Well, that's what he thought. Anyway, one night, it becomes, I think it was 3 weeks or a month, and I kept on looking at this man going, wow, I thought he was this weak, real, shitty dude. But yeah, he's brave enough to stay in a depression clinic to try and sort himself out for his wife. He knew that he needed it, but I'd never given credit for it. And I always look at it now thinking, maybe he was showing me how strong he really is. So anyway, he comes out of the clinic, and things in his life aren't going great, but he never ever doesn't smile. He might not talk to me. To me, he didn't have much respect for my mom, as he should have had, but it never ever changed him. He was always the same. He was always there for my sister. He was always there willing to do anything. Now, in the interim, whenever I needed money or whenever I was in a situation, my sister was always the one that bailed me out, but my mom would ask her. If I hadn't messed up, my mom would be getting her to send cash cents for petrol or for this or that. Even though most of the time it wasn't actually petrol. We'll also get to that in another story soon. But he stuck by her. He stuck by her 110%. That she would tell me, look, he said this or he said that about it. He would never say it to me because he knew if he said it to me, it would hurt my mom, and he didn't want to cause any more trouble. And slowly but surely, over the last 2.5, 3 years, I've got myself into such trouble, and I've caused such heartache and pain. But in the meantime, they've had 2 children, a 14-year-old boy who I got to name, and I'm his godfather. And also special times with him. He actually turned out he's on the autistic spectrum, but not particularly autistic, if there is such a way to say it. A normal guy, you'd never say anything wrong with him. He's 14 now, literally a 14-year-old little teenager discovering his balls and his porn and his unsure of it. But he's just a normal chap. And Coke is playing dad perfectly, like somebody's never done it before him, and he's going along. He's doing a good job with the first one, and then they had another little one, who's can't even describe him. He's not only did I get to help name him, but he's got my second name. So I'm his godfather too, and he's got my second name, and now he's 7. So let's fast forward a few years. He's 1 or 2. The eldest one is say 2 or 3. What? Yeah. So the youngest is 1 or 2. The eldest is now going 7, 8, 9, and I start fucking up. I hang out with the wrong crew. And when I say the wrong crew, in other words, I chose to go do something that I shouldn't have done, and I can't blame anybody else. There's no wrong crew. Peer pressure is an excuse for being stupid yourself. Simple. Can't be anything else. And I started messing up more and more and more. Ended up getting into trouble, ended up doing drugs, ended up needing money for drugs, and my sister and this chap still supported me. They were there for me. Then 2 years ago, Boxing Day, I was driving to go and buy takeaways with 2 other people, and about 5 unmarked police cars and metro cars and marked police cars, and then drove past me like absolute idiots at the robots. And I thought, gee, look at these fools. And the next thing, they jumped out and they were actually looking for me. I was one of Cape Town's most wanted for a week and a half, and they'd been tracking my car number plate, and they'd finally worked out exactly where I was. And they arrested me for attempted murder, armed robbery, and theft of motor vehicle. And they took me to Grassy Park Police Station, and from there I went to Cape Town, where I was held in what do you call it? A small cell. So it was me and this guy that was with me in the car, who had nothing to do with anything that had happened, and another Nigerian chap was there for drug driving. So 3 of us were held in the cell, and we were basically, I was put on watch because I was wanted. I was one of the most wanted. Couldn't phone my mom. Didn't have any contact with them. Nothing. All throughout the times, I'd been arrested a few times before for possession of tuk, and yeah, it was me. It was possessed by me, and all those times obviously you come out the back at Wynberg Court, case withdrawn. But this specific case, I lay there, I didn't shed a tear. I was there from Boxing Day till the 3rd of January, and all I could do was stare at these 4 cement walls. And I lay there and I thought, you know what? How am I going to what excuse am I going to use now? Because the story isn't right from the police's side. My side is, it didn't actually happen, and I'm going to get home, and what's going to happen? And eventually I managed, the guy that was with me, his mom came and bailed us out. My mom, nobody was at court for me. Eventually I managed to get to Parkwood, and I get an Uber money home, and I walk in, and I'll never ever forget, I walk around the corner, and my mother looks at me and bursts into tears. My sister looks at me, and my sister's husband looks at me, and none of them say anything. And I look up, and I can see in his eyes, he said to me, his eyes looked as if they wanted to say, you know what, we've come so far, we can't quit now. That's just the impression I got from him. And I sat down to my mom and my sister, and from that day on, that was 2 years ago, I sat and I spoke to my sister and my mom, and I was honest and open about everything. And then I went and spoke to him. And he has gone through so much. He's been through so much, but yet he's still such a provider for his family, such a carer for my sister. He cares for my nephews. Gee, I can't actually explain. I think everybody's dad always ends up being the hero, but my nephews have, if my nephews come outside at night when we're having a braai and ask for a packet of knickknacks, he's inside and he's explaining to him, you know what, it's late, but it's a Friday, so yes, you can have the knickknacks, or no, you can't. The other day I went to my sister, I wanted to ask her just for some cold water. It's quite ironic. Standing by her front door, because another thing is I don't actually go into my sister's house, and that's another story we get there, but it's a trusting, and it was part of what I did, not what they did. So to me, to show the trust, I don't go into a house, I wait outside. And I heard my brother-in-law helping my nephew with homework. But my nephew, the little one, is now in grade 1, and I could hear the passion in his voice. He wasn't reciting homework. He was helping a little boy that he cared so much for, that he was that little boy again. The two of them were almost like school buddies doing homework, and I was so impressed, and I just thought, wow, that's so awesome. But yet, this chap has been there for me more than anyone. He's bailed me out. He's followed me through situations. He's pulled me out of situations. He's done so much for me. And yet he's still there after making fun of him for how many years. And now he's raised 2 awesome boys. Well, he's busy raising them. I mean, he's also still a boy at heart as well. And, we'll always be best friends in the terms of I'll always owe him one. Like back in the day, if someone saved your life, then they had to hang around with you until you saved theirs. It's not like that. It's just that he knows that I mean so much to my sister and that my sister means so much to me. He also knows that his 2 boys need an uncle that's decent and real and normal. The shit I was doing was not acceptable to be an uncle to them, so he kept me away from them. Now, slowly but surely, I get to spend more time with them. I had a projector up. We had movie nights. Slowly but surely, there's little things that are pushing forward and pushing forward. And he's the one that's not controlling it all. He's just there for it all. He's there to make sure it happens properly. So that is how I got here. That is the one person I need to acknowledge first, just to let everybody in the world know that is how I got to this very point now to look back at. So, Coke, you know your name, you know who you really are. Thank you. I can't say thank you in other words, I guess. I can't speak other words other than thank you. Donkey, maybe. All the jokes I ever made about him that made him stronger. I didn't realize how much stronger it would make him. I didn't realize how much I need him. So thank you for looking after my sister, for being this awesome, awesome husband. Thanks for being a fucking phenomenal brother-in-law, you cunt. And the part of the story is now my mom passed away in October, and we've had to sell the house we've lived in for 36 years, but they've built a house at the back of my house. It's a 2-bedroom, full-on size house, and I live in the main house in the front, and unfortunately we have to sell for certain reasons, but I see it as an adventure. And I guess at the age of 42, and he's a little bit older than me, he's also now looking forward to going to move into his new house. His little one needs one thing. It needs to be a mansion. In other words, it must have stairs. That's all it needs for it to be a perfect house. For me, it just needs to have him as the head of the household so he can finally start his life journey. Without me, without having to rely on me, look after me, so I can't wait to see the day that they get given the keys and they've moved in and they smile and we go our separate ways. I'm going to buy me a flat somewhere on the beach or, I don't know, somewhere different. But when I see the two of them and their 2 boys in his house, it's going to be so worthwhile. And it's still a few months away, but I'm definitely can tell you something. I'm definitely thinking of something awesome and a good way to say thank you to him and to my sister and remember them. Just to let them remember how they are, how they've humbled themselves, because they'll never forget, I know. But all I want to leave my house with is a whole toolbox. My dad's toolbox is obviously empty. All the tools have been stolen by my choice of friends. But there's a wall up on the side with just pictures and memories and hearts and little things around the house that all mom and dad's memories and him and his family, my sister. I'm going to fill that toolbox with those memories, put clothes on my back, and leave. And start my life being the man I should have been. And part of that is going to be seeing the two of them being the family they should have been. So if anybody's got any ideas of how I could say thank you and how I can show my gratitude to him, please let me know. He knows that it's coming, or now he knows it's coming. But yeah. So that's the emotional part of our first podcast. That's how we get to this point. From here on, it's all going to be comedy because I really actually love speaking my mind. Next episode, we're going to be talking about everybody's favorite subject, faith, and more specifically the Bible. A few things in the Bible that it's coming up to Easter. And other than that, my name is Clynton Dunn. Check out on Facebook, on X, on TikTok, everything. Achieve Simple. That's all we're going to be calling this podcast. And it's going to be on YouTube probably once a week. I was thinking maybe release it like some random time, like a Thursday at 3:30 or something. Everybody seems to do Monday. Excuse my sniffing now. I'm trying to hide my emotions. And I'm like a puppy. I've sometimes permanently got a wet nose. So yeah, this is Achieve Simple. My name is Clynton Dunn. Thank you for listening. You guys are fantastic. And I'll chat to you soon.